I'll just.
Now,
right.
just a second, please.
Okay. All right, and then also we are recording in the cloud. Okay. Let me, there were people that were waiting. Let me see. Okay, they will come back in later. We are live on Facebook also, so.
Okay.
Sorry. Let me, all right, so welcome everyone. We have with us today as a special guest, architect Tunde Oyekola. He is the CEO of, sorry, I have to admit some people now. So as I said before, we have with us today a couple, architect Tunde Oyekola, the CEO of Elman Saw Atelier Group, an architectural engineering and construction company based in Abuja, Nigeria. He graduated at the top of his class with first-class honors in architecture from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He finished also as the best graduating student from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, where he earned a Master's of Science degree in architecture. Of course, they usually say that the Nsukka graduate is naturally ahead of you. So if he was the best in Nsukka, he can't be anything less anywhere else. So Tunde has also led El Mansour Atelier in several multinational collaborative efforts with global partners towards the successful delivery of a variety of projects, including projects for international oil and gas companies, commercial real estate development, healthcare facilities, and diplomatic missions. He is the first elected Airport Council International World Business Partner Board Director and recently re-elected for a second term. He has served as chair of the World Business Partners Advisory Board and representative on the ACI World Governing Board, serving two non-consecutive terms. He is an avid runner and has run full and half marathons on 5 continents and continues to inspire others on his blog. We were his students and we fell by the wayside. He has left us behind. He'll come back and search for us. Adebola Oyekola, on the other hand, his wife, is a qualified pharmacist from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria also, has successfully run her own business, Cakes by Cindy's. Cakes by Cindy's is a boutique cakery based in Abuja, Nigeria, which specializes in making custom-made cakes. For your information, she has made cakes for the presidency of Nigeria. So if you want to rub shoulders with the president, just book your cake with Cake by Cindy's and you'll be there. She's also a minister of the gospel and an alumna of Rhema Bible Training Center, an alumnus of the Rhema Bible Training Center in Nigeria. She also has a certificate in entrepreneurship from the prestigious Entrepreneurship Development Center of Lagos Business School. As a Maxwell Leadership Certified Coach, she continues mentoring with a greater focus on young ladies, especially relating to issues dealing with life and business. She's a teacher of the Word of God and a public speaker. Mentoring young and upcoming entrepreneurs on the principles of integrity and truth as a catalyst for social change in Nigeria is also one of our passions. Change, she says, starts with a positive realignment of belief systems and standing for the truth. Let me just add some two additional key information on Tunde's side. Tunde is actually Bola's spiritual father. He followed them up along with my wife also when they were in high school. They worship at the Family Worship Center in Abuja, and he is a national director of the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International here in Nigeria. Can you all please join me as we welcome architect and Mrs. Tunde and Bola Oyekola to today's chat. All right, so you're welcome. I don't know if you want to make an opening remark before we delve into what we have for today.
Well, thank you very much, Rema, for having us. Sister Dak, I can see you right there. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Your friend was asking where you were.
I'll explain later.
So thank you very much for having us. A pleasure, an honor and a pleasure to be here. We thank God for his mercies.
All right, so you're welcome.
Thank you.
Our first question is this. Where and how did you meet?
Well, I'll go first. So if you, anybody listening to the citations that you read would find out that the first point of connection was Ahmadu Bello University's area. And that's where we met. So I went to ABU for my second degree in architecture, and she was studying pharmacy there. And long and short of it was, that is where we met. So that's the direct answer to your question.
Okay, but you studied architecture, you studied pharmacy.
Yes.
So did you meet in the class?
I mean, the first time we met, my closest friend was an architect. So
architecture student.
Was an architecture student rather. So she had met him in the faculty and he was mentoring her. And, you know, she kept talking about, you know, this new student who came from Nsukka and, you know, he came with the first class and how smart he was and all that. And well, it really didn't mean anything to me. In ABU, we had what we called a mission or the convention at the beginning of every year. So while we were going, usually we met at the chapel to have the floats that would go around the campus. And then it was at the chapel that she introduced him to me and said, oh, but this is the Bro Tunde I've been talking to you about. So I was like, oh, really? And the first thing I thought about was, you mean this is a small boy they're calling Bro Tunde? Because every other master student before that had been big, tall architecture guys, you know, so he didn't cut that image to me. And then the next time we met was when our spiritual father, who actually mentored us in secondary school, he used to come to ABU every month or so to mentor those of us who graduated from high school in ABU. And they were friends. They were in the same ministry in Kaduna. So they used to minister together in Kaduna. And then he came, connected with him, and then told all of us to come, you know, all the command students to come. And that was the second time I met him. And well, the rest, they say, is history.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we now have the full story. Okay, so yes, you've brought the connection of your faith. It was while you were preparing for this program in the chapel that you got to meet him. So how has your faith affected your marriage?
I mean, I think that it's been fundamental to our marriage, and fundamental because, first of all, we both individually met the Lord very, very early in our lives. You know, I met the Lord before secondary school. She met the Lord. That's first encounters with the Lord, if you know what I mean. was very early in secondary school. So throughout, so from that point of meeting the Lord and through the rest of our, call it our teen lives into our early adult lives before we met, Jesus was everything to us. So if we were not doing academics, we were doing Jesus. It was just one of the two. I mean, to a point where, you know, parents are even beginning to get worried that these people are just doing Jesus. Will they get married? Can they get married individually? So those foundations were really very, very crucial. And you mentioned, so prior to meeting her, full disclosure, I had met your dear wife with her sister as part of the following up group. And you know, sometimes when I look back, it's really very funny because how old was I to be following up people and mentoring people and so on and so forth. But it's just amazing, you know, how God uses anything and everything as long as the thing is open. But I would say that those foundations were really key to us. One of the things that I can think about is because obviously in those years, you know, all you were doing was following Christ. Truth be told, a lot of vices that young people get into, we didn't get into. And therefore, by the time we're getting married, you could argue that we didn't have baggage. You know, and that is key. Lots of marriages have challenges because of baggage that they're carrying along, and then they're trying to, you know, and it's difficult to separate the proper from the improper. But I would say that our faith was really key to it. And as my wife alluded to, faith is what brought us together. You know, when you read the scripture, you see David and Saul, and the story of how David met Saul, and there are two accounts of it in the scripture. So you have to read the two to tell the story. And then, you know, so in our case too, there were two accounts of the meetings. You need to reconcile the two to see how it all formed. But faith has really been fundamental to our every. It's what we eat, is what we drink up to today.
Thank you. I wish we had can you just give us in a nutshell the other half of the story?
Oh no, she told you the two meetings, and the two meetings were right, because the first meeting with her friend, you know, who introduced us, we just got introduced and we went on with the float. The second one was a bit more, and interestingly enough, by the time we were meeting the second time, I didn't even realize that we had met before the first time, you know, and my friend and I were talking. He said he's mentoring some people, let's go and talk to them. And I said, fine. You know, prior to that, we'd been working together in Kaduna, which is how I met your wife, you know, doing that mentoring, you know, the Kaduna axis. And so it was normal that we're continuing, you know, what we're doing in Kaduna. So the students came around, and so he was asking them what they had studied in their devotions. And when it came to this lady's turn, she dissected the whole thing. I'm just thinking, wow, this one is different. I cannot almost tell you it was from the book of Ephesians, and she dissected the whole thing from the beginning to the end, saying, wow, this one is different from all the others. This one knows the scripture back to back. She spent extra time and all, you know. And so when we're done and the weekend was over and he was going back, I said, so when will I see you again? And I think she was taken aback because she wasn't expecting it. And she said sometime. She was non-committal. And I said, sometime is not an answer. Give me a day and a date and a time. So she was compelled to give me a day and a date and a time, which was next Thursday, 4 p.m., because she would be coming from practicals. And I said, that's fine. So she was bound by her words to keep it being the Christian that she is. And that was it. So we kicked off from there.
All right. Thank you very much. I think that's a very interesting feeling for us who've been friends for quite a while.
Yes.
Let me also ask this, and maybe after this, my wife will come in. Are there issues you consider very important in those early years of your marriage, which now you don't anymore? They are no longer an issue. You can just wave them off. But when you were starting in marriage, it was a major thing, you value them and all that?
I think okay, to add just to what my husband said, the Bible says, "Do not my words do good to them that walk uprightly."
Yeah.
And one of the things that has fundamentally guided and guarded our walk with God is that you want to obey His word no matter what it costs you. So that has always been the foundational way that we've approached marriage and approached issues and all that. What does the word of God say? What does the word of God say? Like anybody who's been married for any length of time, who's been married for 32 years, you would know that if you've been married for any length of time, it's not as if your partner has suddenly turned from Angel Michael to Angel Gabriel or whatever, But over time, with the benefit of maturity, with the benefit of wisdom, with the benefit of communication, some issues become not as important as they were, in the earlier days of marriage. Well, I mean, one of the things I can just think about is, I mean, we've never really been big fighters. We've never been like boxing and shouting. No. So every time you always go to the word, make sure you settle the issues before the following day. You fight like a Christian. You don't fight like an Agbiru on the streets. But I remember one of the fundamental issues I used to have with him when we first got married. I used to tell him, I'd be like, sweetheart, before, when we were courting, he would do letters, poems. I'm sure the ladies on the platform would agree. And the men, letters, poems, I love you 150 million times. You're the only sugar in my tea and the only mosquito in my net. And then we got married and it became work. And then I would ask him, I said, sweetheart, what are you thinking about? He would say, first he may say nothing. Then after he said, I'm thinking about life. Meanwhile, I want to hear that he's thinking about me, not about life.
Because for the life now.
So I used to tell him, I said, you're as warm as a cold marble statue on a cold wintry day. Because I felt that he was not communicative. I'll give him books. I said, okay, read about communication. Men somehow find it easy to communicate before they get married. They are talking to you, my dear. Then suddenly when we get married or they get married or we get married to them, they go on voicemail. It becomes work and, no deep communication. And so that used to really irk me. I'll get books, marriage books put around the house, communication. And, that used to be there. But fast forward 32 years today, I mean, up to today, now I tell him he's the most romantic man, that he's like wine. He has aged very, very to perfection throughout the years. So that's one issue that I can think about, the romantic part and the communication part. He's really great with communication, which is fundamental to any relationship, and great in expressing his love, because one thing to love your partner, but if you don't express it, your partner really doesn't know. So that's one of the things I can think about.
I think if I may add a few things here. So when she would ask what are you thinking about, I was so steeped into my work. What I'll tell her is that she say I'm not romantic. I'll say there's no romance without finance. We have to get the finance right so that romance can continue. If you say let's do romance, let's go out. You're going to spend money. Let's do so those were some of the things. But I also think that, looking back again, like I told you, all we're doing back then was, it was our faith that was central to everything we're doing. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, looking back from where I sit, I don't know how to put it, but growing up in those times, you are brought up, the SU background and everything. And so somebody who is not your gender, you kept a healthy distance between you and the opposite gender. It was just ingrained in us in those formative years. Then suddenly you are married and all those things are supposed to break down immediately and you go on. And that was, like I said, it's a benefit. The thing was still there, yeah, it was still there. So yeah, okay, she's my wife. Of course, I know she's my wife, but what then do you? What do you do? So those, I think, were some of the barriers that one needed to break. Like, well, okay, that was there. Now the silos are broken. You are in, and you can go on from here. So I think that those were parts of the issues and the challenges. I think.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very insightful thing you said, Tunde, because until now, I wouldn't have traced some of the issues we had at the early stage to this gradual adjustment from the rules we had, the tradition we held, to just because we went to the altar in the morning, in the afternoon, and came back. So I think that for those of us in this program listening to us, whether on Facebook or on Zoom, please give your spouse some time for adjustment. Give your spouse some time for adjustment. I think this is a very important. And secondly, I just learned something today. Bro Tunde is an aged wine in marriage. So, can you go with the question number 3?
Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much. Uncle T, as I call you, but maybe to call you Uncle T, yeah, because you've always been our Uncle T for a long time, So, Debola?
Yes.
Yeah, so glad to have you
have
people.
no formality. My sister before
Yeah,
the war.
okay. Yeah, when Uncle T was talking, I remembered something a brother said one day. He said after he got married, of course, before he got married, the wife used to visit him of the year and then go back. But eventually, when they got married, she now became the wife. So yes, they got married. After the wedding, they went home. He was like, after some time, he was expecting her to go back. Oh, they are married. So what next? That kind of. So sometimes I really wonder why it's more on the male side than on the female side. I've had men say such things, but I don't think I've really had a lady say such. So I just wonder why it's more on the male side. So yes, we bless God for how you met and all that, and we can see the hand of God. So I just quickly want to ask, have you had disagreements in your marriage? And of course, I didn't say fight because that's no. So, have you had disagreements? And if so, how strong were they and how were you able to resolve them? We want to learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, disagreements are a natural part of relationships. It's often said that if there's a relationship without any challenges or disagreements, somebody is not at the party. Because two individuals will have different ideas and opinions about things. That's one issue. Second issue is that two different genders will see things differently. There might be something, and you ask me what color it is, and I'll tell you it's red. And my wife will say, no, it's pink or potato yellow or powder pink. In other words, I'm seeing solid colors, she sees shades of colors, and so on. So yeah, we've had and do have disagreements about things. But one thing is probably, okay, so growing up the way we did, you knew what the scripture said about fights and your attitude to it. This is prior to marriage, with your friends and all that. You didn't want your prayers to be hindered, prayer, adoration, confession, thanksgiving, and supplication. So when you get to the C part, you want to make sure that and it's ingrained in you that thing is taken care of before you go to the other things. And the other part is also that, apologizing is not a very palatable thing to do. You have to do it, but that's why it has a name by itself. So if you don't want to apologize, then don't commit. If you don't commit, then you will not have to. It's just a way of thinking. So you want to, as much as possible, prevent or avoid the thing. So yeah, we have, but we are not very, how would I put it? We're not very colorful. There are some families, couples, you see when there's a disagreement, everybody will know there's a disagreement, and but that's how they are by nature. We are not like that. So we will try to talk about the thing like reasonable adults. If we can't resolve it, we leave it and you go and think. We are thinkers, so you spend a long time thinking and praying and figuring out, okay, what did I do well? What didn't I do well? And so on. And eventually, you kind of get it resolved. But we've never had a situation where anything got out of hand. And that's, and I think it's also individual lives.
I think I remember, well, amongst the many, just to highlight how we handle disagreement, amongst the very first disagreements we had, when we were about to get married, we went to the market and wanted to buy curtains. So, I mean, you know how it is. He mentioned, gender differences. You're coming from different homes. You have different expectations. And that's one of the things we should understand in marriage. Like we've said, the fact that you're married doesn't mean that suddenly you're just melded. The fact that he said the two are one doesn't mean suddenly you get, husband and wife are now just one like that. It takes a process. And it's like sandpaper, two pieces of sandpaper. They'll first rub each other very rough before the surfaces become smooth. So we went to the market and I was saying, and I'll be like, oh, sweetheart, what do you think about this curtain? It's really nice. And he'd be like, no, I really don't like it. I'd be like, no, I really don't like it. And we kept going, and this is in Lagos. So we went round and round and round and round trying to get this curtain. At a point, we were just so angry and upset, we left the market without any curtains. So when the next time my husband said, okay, look, go and buy whatever curtains, anything you like. And then how women, women would like to play relationship. Will you like what I'm going to buy? I really wanted to like it. But we couldn't agree because we just didn't see the colors or the decor the same. So he said, don't worry, just buy it. So our first set of curtains were cream with pink, and then the chairs were pink fabric. I'm sure he did not like it as much as I liked it, but that's called negotiation and compromise. So he compromised and allowed me have the curtains, that I wanted. And subsequently, today we have a rule. Anything that has to do with inside the house is under my purview. Anything that has to do with outside the house, the concrete outside and everything, is his own purview. So we don't argue over. You just come back and see a new picture or a new this, because he came to tell me that after all, you stay the most in the house, just make it the way you like, and when you make it the way you like, you're happy. So in marriage, I think one of the things that has really helped us is that a lot of times we negotiate, but if we can't negotiate, we compromise. Then plus the thinking part, which is for every conflict that we encounter, you have to think about what really is the benefit as opposed to I want my way. So if we do it his way, it's going to be better for the family or for him or for me, Is it going to be better for us? If we do it my way, is it going to be better for us? And then eventually when we're able to come to a conclusion about that, we decide whether we're going to compromise, whether we're going to negotiate, whether we're going to leave the matter and not talk about it, because some things are just best not talked about if they are not fundamentally detrimental to the whole. Plus, there's also a sense of fairness. Nobody is trying to do things at the expense of the other person. So we both feel that, in the conflict, at the end, whatever situation or solution we bring to the situation, there has to be a sense of fairness that both issues or both parties have had a say in the matter. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, I really like one, there should be fairness. I'm starting from the last, fairness, willing to negotiate. And again, something else I got from there is that we should be open-minded, and we should be willing to communicate, not just bottle up our feelings and then, okay, I don't want this, well, I just keep quiet and get bottled up, and later the emotions get unleashed. But then fair communication, let the other person know what is not comfortable with you, and you come, negotiate, come to an agreement, give or take. At the end of the day, peace reigns. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We want to take the next question. You may not agree with me, but it's okay. This is my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. Both of you are very successful in your individual demanding careers. How have you been able to manage your careers, relationship, and raising children?
Okay.
Bro, Tunde, you are traveling almost always on the road, and she's been in Port Harcourt here to train, to deliver a training to what's his name now? Egan's group.
Yes.
In between, there's a family, and
Rema, yeah.
manage this.
Okay. So, life is in phases. So we've had different phases of our lives. We are in a particular phase now, and I'm sure that before long there'll be another phase of it coming up. Going back to the beginning with the formative years of our marriage, we started our family in Lagos. And one of the things that helped us was that we're quite clear-eyed about what we wanted in our lives. The most important thing was that God and service to God, or service in God's vineyard, was fundamental to everything that we're going to do. So that was the foundation of it. We also felt that we would, in the future, we would like to travel. So because we would like to travel, that meant that we had to make decisions at that early age that would kind of enhance that particular goal in our future at the time. As you mentioned in the citations, I'm an architect and she is a pharmacist. So when we got married, she was working as a pharmacist and I was working as an architect. We're working in different organizations. But by the time the first child was coming in, so initially we decided that the first 2 years we're not going to have any children. So that we get to understand ourselves and this whole marriage thing and what this thing is all about without the interference of a third party, which would be the child now. And that decision itself, I mean, thinking back, if we had to do it all over again, we would do the exact same thing. And keep in mind that we got married pretty early. She was 23. Even in today's world, it's very early. So we needed to learn about ourselves, learn about life, and so on, without the complication of a third person. So we had the benefit of two years without any interference. So by the time the first child was coming, it became apparent to us that she couldn't carry the pregnancy and keep working. So we had a conference, and that's what we do as a family. Up to today, we have conferences, and we call them AGMs. Even with our children, we have AGMs, annual general meeting, with an agenda and everything. So we had a general meeting where we had to come to terms with, okay, because this is the case, you will then have to stay home, and I will keep working. So a family with a single source of income, And so we started doing that. The first child came in, and then over time we moved cities from Lagos. The second child came, and because of the nature of my job, because I have to travel a lot, it was great that she was at home, taking care of the home base and so I was traveling quite a lot. a whole lot at the time. Until the children were grown enough to start going to school, and that's when she now came back and started her business. So it was part of an agreement. So once she decided on which business she wanted to do, the whole family had to come to terms with that and set up that business for the business to run. And that's how her own business started. And for me as an architect, so it took time for my own business to grow. And not like any business at the beginning, it's going to take a lot from you. But after a while, when it evolves from being a job to a business where you can now have some time off it, which is about where we are now. We are now playing catch up. So all those times of sacrifice in the beginning, we can begin to save time. So at the moment, every time I'm traveling, we travel together. The only time she will not go with me is if something really, really, really urgent came. It's not important. Otherwise, we're all going together. That's how we came and met you guys in Qatar, if you recall the last time.
Yeah,
for international conferences and so on. But in between, there is still the traveling, going. She will travel to do her administrations. I'll travel to do my administrations or my work. And we all those times. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. It does. There's something you just mentioned that I think we all need to take note of. I think there are two key things that struck me. That early decision to give yourself 2 years to understand yourself. Let me just ask, where did you get that from? Where did you get that idea from?
So it's very interesting. This is my own perception. So when we're talking about, okay, when we get married, how many children we want to have and so on. So we agreed initially to have two children. So my wife, okay,
Can anyone else hear them?
No, okay.
Hello, can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I can hear you now.
Hello?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you now.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah.
So she said 1 year, and that was strange to me, a bit strange, because what you hear from other people is that once you get married, 9 months, a child should come. But I was working in Port Harcourt then, and my boss and I were quite close, and he knew I was planning to get married. And he said, today, may I suggest that when you get married, may I suggest that you do not have children immediately, so that you. That's exactly what my wife was suggesting to me. So when we came back, I now said, you know what? If we're going to wait for 1 year, why don't you make it 2 years so that it's a bit longer, And she said, okay. I mean, she was happy with it because the first 1 year I was non-committal, but I don't know why I was non-committal, or rather, it was strange because that didn't seem like what people were doing. But hearing from her and hearing from my boss, made it clear that it made a lot of sense, and so that's how we settled on 2 years. So that's all.
Okay, and then the second thing I wanted to ask is, okay, I noted from what you said, after the children are all gone, you travel always together except something happens. And Sister Bola, how does that make you feel? Because otherwise you'll be the one at home alone.
Oh, when he travels?
Yes, I mean, you travel together most often now because the children are no longer. So I was asking, how does that make you feel, given that you would have been alone at home, now that the children are no longer there?
You mean how does traveling? Okay, well, I mean, traveling together, we'd always agree that we would travel together. So I'm fantastic about that. Idea. One of the things that we fundamentally, have. One of our fundamental, would I say, core values is family. Mm-hmm. So our family and the peace of our family and the unity of our family comes first. So everything that we plan is usually planned around how will this also affect the family. So that's how we've always, viewed issues. Okay, if we have the children and when we're in Lagos, all of us go to work, we leave home at 5 a.m., come back at 8 p.m. or 9. When the children are with the house helps from Monday to Sunday, or well, Monday to Friday, how will that eventually fundamentally affect the family? We're able to make that decision to say, okay, I should stay at home and he would work. And, in the process, nobody made anybody feel bad that you're staying at home. What are you doing? And all, because that's another fundamental thing. Then it's like, why are you sitting down? You're eating all the money and all that, and you're not even working. So people now begin to make compromises on what some of their core values are. So I just wanted to chip that in. So when it came, now we spent a lot of time building our businesses. Like his business started in 1994. My business started in 2005. When our first child started secondary school. But there were the early years when we would both have to be with the business. It's just that now as you build business, it comes to a point where you have trusted staff, people you can hand over business to, and then travel for 2 weeks or something, and then come back to the business. So that's how it works now. Usually when he travels now, he doesn't travel as long as he used to travel in those days. In those days, it used to be for long, but I would have the kids at home with me. But now if he's gone for a week, 10 days, I'm fine staying at home alone. He'll be back soon. But if it's the trips that we have decided to go on together, then we go on and those ones together. And well, there's no child in the house to worry about, So it works very well for us.
All right. Thank you very much. And for those of us who are listening, I hope we are taking note of this. In the early days, life was different, but now they have entered a totally different phase. What they couldn't do together those days, the opportunity is now there to do. And I know there are cases where even at this point, the husband will still insist on going alone, and the wife will be battling loneliness at home because the husband is always away, still thinking like living like when they had the children with them. So I think these are things that we need. Sometimes we see that marriages, people divorce after 30 years, after 40 years, because of things like this. So we need to take note of this.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
One of the fundamental reasons that causes that is that when couples start their marriage, which is why I chipped in that our family was key. My relationship with him, number one, and then our relationship with the children, number two, in terms of the family. What usually causes that is in the initial stages of marriage, couples are not building their relationship. They're either building a career or playing house. So they're not putting in the things, that would make them friends. In Yoruba, they always pray, may you become friends. They're not putting in the work to make their friendship work. So they start as friends, lose the friendship, husband faces work, wife faces work and children, or faces children alone or whatever. Everybody has separate interests. And if you have separate interests for 20 years or 25 years, when the children leave, it's very difficult to begin to build a life back together again. And a lot of waters have passed under those bridges. A lot of conflicts probably that were not settled. A lot of issues, that they have talked about, but somebody's talking over the head of another person. One of the man will say, well, we're not friends, or they would cohabit without a relationship. So I would just, admonish us to always build our relationship with our spouse. Bible says the two are one. That is what we need. The children will leave us, and like we're saying in another place where we're counseling, you don't want a situation where, you go into some old 70-year-old mama and papa's house, and mama is in the room, papa is on the other side. A carer is with mama, a carer is nobody's talking to each other. It's a really miserable, end of life existence, So I think we should do the work right now when we have the time.
I want to add something to what she has said. And it's something that I think that the gentleman on listening should also pay a lot of attention to. Very often, and again, that this happens, it would probably seem to happen more in African societies than elsewhere, but I may be wrong. In too many instances, men do not see their wives as partners the way God intended for the marriage to be. So for case in point is our families that we're coming from. Your brother or your sister is your brother or your sister. No matter how bad that person is, that person remains your brother or your sister. And you accept, everybody knows this is the black sheep of the family. You don't throw that black sheep away. You just know how to relate with the black people. Whether you are tolerating or you are accommodating or doing whatever it is, you are making the effort to keep that relationship. And your mother will probably tell you, well, all of you are just one. I only have, if there were 10 of you or 5 of you, your mother will keep telling you that you are just 5, make sure you are united. So in spite of the fights that you have as siblings, you are still together, you come together, you know the tendencies, you accommodate the tendencies and try to do the things that you have to do. In other words, at the back of your mind, there is nothing like you throwing a brother away or you throwing a sister away. But when it comes to matrimony, people do not see the spouse as that kind of person. So the spouse is seen as something that can be replaced. And so when there are issues that arise in a relationship, those same issues arising amongst your siblings, you will find a way of resolving. But when it happens between you and your spouse, somewhere at the back of your mind, it can be replaced. I mean, it's not by force. And some of the things I would say, and nothing phrase marriage like that. But when you decide that, listen, the same way I cannot throw away my brother or my sister is the way I can't throw away my spouse, whether it's husband or wife. It means you are going to make the extra effort to make it work, the extra effort to accommodate, the extra effort to give room, the extra effort to give allowance. Your fuse is then not as short. You will give the benefit of the doubt when things happen and so on. And like I said, we are in our 33rd year of marriage. Now, my 32 years, this is our 33rd year. I can say without any equivocation that the full benefit of marriage is actually in your older years, not in your younger years. Because in your younger years, you are busy. There are so many things you are doing, taking up your time. And if you unwittingly do not build the relationship, as my wife, was saying, because every relationship has to be built. The relationship between you and your siblings has been built over time. Building means putting things in and taking things out, so you have to go the extra mile. By the time the children are gone and you are married 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, which is where you are now supposed to be reaping the fruits because you now have history. So when we sit down, we go back memory lane and say, do you remember when this happened? Do you remember when that happened? And so on. We're not getting the benefits of it. Not only that, traveling alone is the most boring thing ever. I can tell you that for nothing. The few times I've had to travel alone abroad, when I come back, my wife will say, where did you go? I'll say nothing. I stayed in my hotel room, went for my meeting and came back. That is my life when I travel alone because she's not there. But when she is there, it's okay, let's go and engage the city. Let's go and do this. And we'll say, did you see this? Did you see that? Did you see this? Did you see that? If I go alone and she come by and say, what did I see? I saw nothing. So why would you want to stay alone without sharing memories? And that's, so we should think about it long term and let that help us to make the decision now. You don't want to wait until you are 50, 60. Now you are going to marry again because you have let your spouse go. You are starting this journey all over again. You know how difficult it was to build a relationship for 20 years and think about starting it all over again. I don't think it's worth it.
Thank you so very much. I think that's worth $1 million. or anybody that hears. Please, these things are not cheap. They're speaking from 32 years. 32 years. 32 years. Some haven't lasted for a month. So please, let's take these things seriously and apply them. Those of you who are not yet married or in the process of getting married, please document, write down. I'm taking notes myself. So please write these things down. I think my wife will ask question number 7. Maybe that will be the last, and then we'll just be rounding up because time is not, I wish we could just go on.
Okay. Actually, you have asked question number 7, so I'm going to go to. Okay,
No.
okay, no, yeah. Let me just ask. Okay, yeah, I get it. So let me just ask. I know one of the major challenges in marriage is the issue of finances. Ladies say, my money is my money, but your money is our money. So, how do you manage your finances in such a way that everybody is happy? Can you share with us?
You go first.
As usual.
Okay. That's interesting. So again, I want to go back to the beginning, to our beginning. And here is the first thing I would say. To us, money is a tool, has always been a tool. It's never been an end in itself. And it's really important. I say that because, you see, your relationship with money will definitely affect how you treat it, what you do with it, and so on. So being the tool, when we got married, the money was not a lot. So once I get my salary, I go to the market. I was the one who did the bulk shopping then. I go to the market, Okari market, or wherever it was, the Doe market, whatever. Buy the thing. She would have given me a list that we need for the month. Bring it back. And then the rest of the money I kept in the drawer. Pretending over it. All I needed in the drawer.
Oh, that was the
our drawer was a bank.
Our drawer was the bank.
We didn't have enough to take to the bank. It was there.
So it was there, And it's interesting, even though the money was not a lot, we really didn't lack. We were clear-eyed about what we wanted. What we couldn't have, we couldn't have. It's very simple. So let's not overextend ourselves. And so you did that. And if for any reason we had a bit more money, it would come in there. Or if it was too much to stay in there, it stayed in the bank. But every single account that we had were co-signatories. Every single account we had back then. And it is a habit we have kept up to today. Okay? So, of course, as we grew older and things began to change and improve, any account we opened, she signed, we signed, either can sign. So I didn't need to be there for her to sign. She didn't need to be there for me to sign. And we kept an open book. She has accounts for her businesses. I have accounts for my businesses. We have the family account. But in each of those ones, we are joint signatories. So everybody knows what's there. So it's really an open book. The Bible talks about being open and not being ashamed. And really, that's how we have run our lives. And I think that the beginning was really very important because it kind of set the tone for what we do up to today. So everything that is everywhere and anywhere, she knows, I know. I'll give you an example. Some of her business accounts, I get the alerts. And I'm telling her, why am I the one getting the alerts to your account? I don't need your alerts. She said, no, so that you know what is going on. I said, but I don't need to know what is going on. I already have enough problem. And, we go back and forth on it. But, it's really important for couples to understand what they think about money, how they think about money, and what money really is. Because if you are not careful, money will destroy you. And people say they want a lot of money. Very often in some families, very little money means very little problem. A lot of money means a lot of problems. People think when they have a lot of money to solve their problems, but if the problems are there, and money comes, it will amplify those problems and destroy it. That's been our experience, you know. So I dare say that we have learned to master money. If we have to make investments and so on, we sit down, we think about it. This is what we're going to do. What do you think? We go back and forth, we plan, and we execute. And the good thing about it is that when you have done it together, if the thing fails, it's joint failure. You understand what I mean? If it succeeds, it's joint success. But if you go and do it alone and it fails, you know you carry the thing on your head.
I mean, I'd just like to add, since he's looking at me, you know, when it comes to money, it's not the absence or presence of money that causes problems. Like you said, it's a relationship with money. You know, sometimes in relationships, there's selfishness. Sometimes, you know, so it is like I say about, you know, our early years and even up to today, when our money was in the drawer, because he was working first and I got a job, all the money is in the drawer. But I won't wake up one morning and find that he has gone to buy one. I don't know how big the TVs were in those days. And, you know, there were other things that we had not, I mean, we had on the budget that had not been executed. And he won't wake up one morning and find that I had gone to do something else also, you know, in that regard. So the first thing, like we said, is there must be aligned goals, and that involves sitting down and aligning goals. One of the things that hurts marriages is that one or the other partner thinks their goals supersede the other partner's goals. No, once the two are one, everybody's goals are fair game. Everybody's goals are legitimate goals, and those goals must be brought to the table. When it was a situation where we could not meet the two goals, there'll be a negotiation. I remember one Christmas, you know, it was like, oh, sweetheart, there'll be no Christmas presents this year. I have to buy a computer. So for the two of us, the Christmas present became the computer. And I stepped down, but knowing that he wasn't a selfish person, because what happens is he may go and do that. The next day it is another pair of shoes. The next day it is a suit for himself. And, you know, the other spouse's needs and goals are just left. So, you know, like I said, selfishness is one of the fundamental things. Even rich people who are wealthy, you find that a lot of them are still very selfish. They still have a very bad relationship with money. And it is still causing problems in their homes up to today. Rather than bringing the homes together, it is dividing, you know, the homes. So aligning goals in whatever is key. Another thing with money is being open about the use. We have, joined, for every account, you know, everybody's a signatory. However, it's not as if I have to tell him every day, I redo this one to buy gas, I redo this one to do, you know, because we trust each other. I trust his use of money and he trusts my use of money. At some point, you know, he will say, okay, sweetheart, you know, beyond this, I wanted to do so and so for this person and that person. So anything, we usually would both know what is going out. That way you're not causing problems. Somebody is saying, hey, you know, you gave to my mother, you didn't give to your own mother, you gave to this, which goes back to selfishness. My own goals supersede your own goals. And that brings me to the third thing I'll say because of time, what my sister said about your money is our money, my money is my money. For every statement that is made, we always need to know history. The present generation are fighting this present battle. Why? Because of the seeds that their fathers sowed, and the grandfathers and the great-grandfathers. So many women put everything that they had into the hands of their husbands, into the hands of the grandfathers, the great-grandfathers. And at the end, the man would just wake up, kick them out to their children, throw them to the streets and replace them with a new wife. And one of the things that the mothers who went through that would tell their daughters is, make sure you keep some money, because if you don't, if anything happens, you'll be left on this curb with your children. The man doesn't even care about children, his own children. You'll be lucky if he takes the children and sends you back to your father's village. Let me make you laugh. Even my mother-in-law told me, and she tells every one of her daughters, my mother-in-law, his mom, told me, said, Bola, keep your money. Make sure you have your own money. And that was because she had an experience with my father-in-law. My own mother had an experience with my own father. And that is what brings those things, you know. The question is, as a husband, are you defending your wife's integrity? If tomorrow, you know, things happen, will you say, oh, everything I work for is mine, you know, get out? In that case, if she doesn't have any money to rent an apartment for herself, that means she and her kids are on the street. And we know those stories, you know, today. So statements don't just come out of the blue. So whenever a statement like that is made, we always have to go to the fundamentals. you must be prepared to have and to hold, like we say in our vows, from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health. You must be prepared to have. And all my earthly goods I thee endow. If I know that half of the earthly goods are going to, in these days, going to sisters, going to brothers, going to side chick, because we have some people do that, having other families. I would say it's a foolish woman who doesn't have a backup plan. But when we put in everything like the Lord desires, like we in, Christian homes are doing, when you put in everything, you know that your partner is not going to swab you, he's not going to go to the bank, but she's not going to the bank to go and take all the family money in the name of joint account. Those are the fundamental wicked things that human beings do that cause some of the problems that society is having today in our marriages.
I thank you very much, Sister Bola. A cat you let out, I'm not sure you intentionally did, but I caught it. You see, from what she said, both of them are coming from a background that had problems. But this is the marriage that they have built regardless of that background. Because if you notice, let me just maybe feed us. Tunde's mother is Ghanaian.
Yeah.
Tunde's mother is Ghanaian. Okay. So what we were saying cross-cultural marriages. These is a product of a cross-cultural marriage that didn't even work.
Yeah.
If we were to talk about standard modern marriage, it wasn't. Sister Bola has also said on her side, it wasn't a modern marriage. But regardless of that, they have been able to build a marriage that has stood for 32 years. And after 32 years, we are calling them to share with us their experience so we can learn. You can do the same. Many of us here will say, oh, it's because of his background, it's because of my background, all this. Those backgrounds don't matter if you're committed to doing the right thing, to making the sacrifice. That's what I didn't want us to miss. I actually wanted to bring this up, but I didn't know how I would bring up. Thank God you brought them up. Thank you very much. Can you, because our time is already up, please, Bro Tunde and Sister Bola will come back here because there's a lot of windows that have opened that we need to go into for our own sake. I've pleaded with them that they will bear with us. But just before we close, Bro Tunde, can you tell us a little bit about your business, your company?
Oh, I'm actually.
Yes.
Oh, well, you said a lot about us, but the core competence of our business is aviation related infrastructure. So in Nigeria, practically we are the foremost aviation consultancy company. We have designed 5 airports, 4 of which are functional. The 5th one is being built now, and it's an advanced stage. It's an advanced stage, which is why we also happen to be members of the Airport Council International, among some of the other aviation-related things that we're doing. But in addition to that, we also consult for some multinationals and private companies. So we are an architecture, engineering, and construction company. And yeah, the ride has been very exciting. Thank God for it.
Thank you very much, Bro Tunde. And for those of us who are listening, you're in Nigeria and I hear some states are talking of building airports. Here is the person to consult, at least in this country today. This is the person to consult. If your state is an airport and they are serious about it, this is the man to talk to. Sister Bola, can you tell us a bit about Cakes by Cindy?
Okay, well, Cakes by Cindy is a bespoke cake decorating firm in Abuja. We've been in existence since 2005. So we make custom-made cakes for all locations. And we've had commissions, corporate commissions, retainerships with banks, and so on and so forth. So if you want to do large-scale cake orders, we are there, to do that. I also run Synergia Consults. Started that about 3 or 4 years, and that's into leadership and entrepreneurship training with a bent towards people skills and people management. Because like Roima read earlier, I did the DISC certification, and I find that, as an entrepreneur, one of the key fundamental issues that people have is people management, staffing management, dealing with customers, and so on and so forth. And, I decided to put myself in that space, to help small businesses, big businesses be able to manage, the soft relationships, soft skills in their organizations, much better. Not too much about the HR side. HR is usually taken on by, HR functions, the HR people, but, more towards the people skills, part. How do you deal within teams? How do you build strong teams, and so on and so forth. And in that regard, I facilitate in EDC, the Pan-African University, and I also facilitate, that particular area, the Rema Bible Training Center International. So,
if I may add one quick thing. So between 1999 and now, everybody who has been in ASO, every president has eaten her cakes. Back to the point you made. So they are her clients as well. And as I say, if you haven't eaten Cindy's cakes, you've been eating bread all this while. No kidding.
So, I want to eat cakes. Send me Cindy's cakes and send the bill to Atelier. Please, thank you very much for the two of you for coming, Bro Tunde and Sister Bola. Some of the things I wrote down. Some of you, I guess you have something different. One of them is a lot of marriages. The problem they have are legacy issues that they brought from the baggages they had before they came into the marriage. And most times we don't really think about that. So if your marriage is is not what it should be, look back. Could it be some of the things you're dragging in from your background that you've not resolved? Then the second one is obey God's word, regardless of what it costs, when conflicts arise and you need to resolve it. Great communication is fundamental to a healthy marriage. Allow your spouse time to adjust to you. And then they made a decision from the beginning. For the first 2 years, there will be no child so that they can adjust to themselves without interference. And then the full benefit of your marriage is in your later years. That's why you need to take the time to invest in it in your early years. And think long-term. Think long-term. The problems we are facing, whatever it is we are doing in our marriages, think long-term. When it comes to money, understand that money is a tool. It's just a tool to help you do the things you need to do. Your relationship with money will either make or destroy your marriages. In their own marriage, they operate joint accounts, they have business accounts, they have family accounts with their co-signatories too. But what we have I've learned from here is full transparency and trust. And they said that they have learned to master money. We can see it from the way they have talked to us. And finally, and I think this is something that many times we ignore unintentionally, no partner's goals are superior to the other one. The wife that stays at home to look after the children is not doing something less than the husband that is out to work for money. So thank you once again, Bro Tunde and Sister Bola. I don't know if you have a final parting word for us.
Well, we just want to say that, I said before somewhere else, I said the reason we do this is not because we want to, it's not because we've been married for 32 years, but it's because our heart's desires, just like yours and my sister's heart's desire, is that marriages should work. When marriages don't work, it causes a lot of social problems. People get, children are affected, generations to come are affected. You're thinking about the world that is going to, your children or your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren are going to live in, if we don't fix the fundamentals, which is family. So I would really like to, encourage all of us on this call, today, to just think about our marriages. Our marriages are actually generational blessings if we allow them work the way, they are supposed to work. And the second thing, and the most important thing, is just please make God the center of your marriage. He will help you through the thick, he will help you through the thin, and he will bring you out strong on the other side.
But the only thing I want to say is when I look back at where one is coming from, and Adako, don't laugh, but when I look at all the people that God used me to follow up in my growing up years, and I see everybody settled in homes and strong families, and so on. It just gives one so much joy and satisfaction, and yeah, I mean, it's just so thank you very much for keeping the flag flying.
Thank you very much. God bless you once again. I don't know if you have something to say.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yes, you've sown so much into my life and my sister's life, and thank God that you can see the fruits. And Debola, thank you so very much. Incidentally, can I just quickly mention this? It was Debola that spoke to me, Debola and Bumi, my friend, that spoke to me, and I gave my life to Christ. So, yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
We are looking forward.
Thank you everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you everyone for
thank you everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. So sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will stop the recording now. So thank you very much, everyone. God bless. Thank those of you on Facebook and those on Zoom. Thank you very much for coming. God bless you. Rasita, thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you.
God bless.